both of those fingers, I want you to hook them into your mouth at the sides where your lips meet. So I want you to say these words. 2 elephants.
2 elephants.
Went up the hill.
Went up the hill.
And parted.
And parted.
The AI fix a digital zoo. Smart machines, what will they do? Flies to Mars or bake a bad cake? World domination, a silly mistake. Bots with brains.
Hello and welcome to episode 68 of the AI Fix, your weekly dive headfirst into the bizarre and sometimes mind-boggling world of artificial intelligence. My name's Mark Stockley.
And I'm Graham Cluley. Mark, what are you talking about on today's episode?
I'll be asking, should AI have rights?
And I'm not going to be talking about the AirPods Pro 3. I'm going to be talking about something much, much cooler.
Oh, but first, the news.
Whoa. Mark, stop the news. There is bigger news than the news. And that is the hot news that we now have an online store full of the AI Fix merchandise. Very exciting.
Literally, by popular demand.
It is by popular demand. So we mentioned as a joke last week that would listeners like would you trust a pigeon more than an AI? What was it?
Yeah. If you're asking yourself, should I trust an AI to do this? You need to ask yourself, would you trust a pigeon to do it?
Yes. And we said, wouldn't it be great if there were would you trust a pigeon t-shirts? And it turns out our listeners would love to have a would you trust a pigeon t-shirt so much that we designed a Would You Trust a Pigeon t-shirt, as well as some other AI Fix goodies, which you can now grab online.
So, Graham, where can people find this high-quality merchandise?
It's really easy. Go to the aifix.show, which is our website, and look for the store up there. If you want to go directly there, it's the aifix.show/store. And we've got mugs, we've got hoodies, we've got t-shirts, and maybe we'll add some more things as well. But we have already had some people order them. Some people have already found out about this. But disappointingly, no one seems to have posted pictures of themselves on social media yet wearing their pigeon t-shirt and tagging us. But only a matter of time, I suppose. We've probably spoken about it enough now. But there is an online store. Go and check it out and you can support the podcast that way. Let's move on to the news. Truck fire panic ends up in a puff of nothing.
Why language models hallucinate.
The godfather of AI has been dumped by AI.
Albania appoints world's first AI minister.
AI idiocy celebrated in the AI Darwin Awards.
Oh, I love the Darwin Awards. Tell me about that.
Well, everyone, I hope, has heard of the Darwin Awards. They are those prizes, in inverted commas, handed out to people who improve the gene pool by accidentally removing themselves from it. So it's people who have some kind of accident. They do something extraordinarily stupid, normally involving fireworks or heavy machinery. But the AI Darwin Awards, these are instead about people who deploy AI in a way that is so idiotic, so reckless, so utterly pointless that you wonder if they're just trying to get into our news section. So the AI Darwin Awards, they claim to reward the visionaries that outsource our poor decision-making to machines. And to win one of these AI Darwin Awards, the nominated firms or people must have shown spectacular misjudgment with AI and ignored obvious warning signs before their tool or product went out. Now, I worry about the judges for the AI Darwin Awards because it sounds to me like they're going to be very, very busy indeed. They will be deluged.
I'll be very disappointed if it's not being judged by AI.
Frankly, it'd be much quicker to have the AI non-Darwin Awards, because I imagine most...
If you need to sift through this much data, what better answer is there than asking an AI to do it?
So they are giving bonus points, apparently, to any AI deployments that make the headlines, requiring emergency response, or spawning a new category of AI safety research. So I was intrigued by this. I thought, frankly, this is a well I could drink from for quite some time. I thought there's going to be quite a lot of useful material here. So I went to see about some of those AI developments that have already been nominated.
Yeah.
And the first thing I see on the AI Darwin Awards website is the AI Darwin Awards website. It has been nominated itself in what is called the ultimate meta-irony achievement, with claims that the content of its website was actually generated with AI. So some anonymous person says that it represents the perfect recursive AI failure, a website warning about AI overconfidence, potentially demonstrating AI overconfidence in its very construction. And they say that using AI to write about why AI is dangerous is the digital equivalent of hiring a fox to write safety guidelines for a hen house, and then being surprised when the manual contains chapters on how to season a piece of chicken. So anyway, the AI Darwin Awards, the official judges, they have decided that their own website is ineligible for an award. They do have at least the dignity.
Corruption, I tell you, corruption. Rank corruption.
Yes, they do have the dignity of listing it as having been nominated, but they say it is ineligible because they say even if it is confirmed that it was written with a little bit of help from AI, that fact doesn't in itself have the catastrophic consequences typical of Darwin Award winners, which I suppose they make up the rules, so fair enough. So yeah, watch this space. The AI Darwin Awards.
I was just wondering, which of the news stories that we've done over the last year and a half do you think maybe we could do our own awards? Maybe we should do another by popular demand. Listeners, what do you think? Should we do our own version of the Darwin Awards? Should we do the AI Fix Awards?
Mark, I'm busy enough doing bloody T-shirt designs. I can't run an awards ceremony as well.
So, Graham, one of the biggest drawbacks of using AI is that they hallucinate. So that's when they don't know something, but instead of saying they don't know, they just make up an answer that sounds just about right. And then they deliver that answer with total confidence.
Yes.
Rather than just saying, no, I don't know. And this, of course, has real-world consequences, as you know, and as we've reported on many times. So you remember Matter versus Avianca. That was a legal case where the lawyers used an AI for research, and the AI just made up a bunch of case law.
Yes.
And then the lawyer who went into court with it got fined. And in fact, it's AI hallucinations, probably more than anything else, that actually lead you down the path of saying, you know, when you're asking yourself, should I trust an AI to do this? You have to ask yourself, would I trust a pigeon to do it?
T-shirts available.
If they didn't do that, you probably wouldn't have to ask that question nearly so often. As a consequence, hallucinations are a big deal, and OpenAI has been looking into it, and it's just released a research paper, and it's concluded there are 2 reasons why hallucinations occur.
Right.
The first one is the pre-training process. You know, when we talk about they get fed all this data and they learn the patterns in the data.
Yes.
That's the pre-training process. So in the pre-training process, the AI makes guesses and the process itself rewards guesses over uncertainty. So when the AI doesn't know something and it guesses, the training process says, yep, that's good. So OpenAI says that these sorts of hallucinations are actually what we call a classification error in the training process. And then secondly, the hallucinations that are embedded during the training process then persist through subsequent training stages, so things like reinforcement learning, because the benchmarks that are used in those processes tend to reward confident guessing rather than uncertainty again.
Yeah.
So basically, everybody wants to pass benchmarks, so the models are sort of optimized for those benchmarks, and the benchmarks don't want you to be uncertain.
Okay, so it's not that they're eating digital mushrooms or something like that. That's not causing the hallucination. Has anyone tried that yet? Of course, we'd probably have to ask the AI whether it was safe to eat the mushrooms.
Maybe it's another T-shirt.
Now, firefighters in Manila in the Philippines, they received an urgent report of a truck being on fire. 4 fire engines raced out, their sirens blaring, they weaved through traffic. But when they got there, oh no, their day was ruined because the truck was just fine. I always think it must be absolutely miserable to be a fireman and to never encounter a fire, don't you? What would be the fun of being a fireman?
Hang on. So somebody tells you a truck is on fire and you go there and it turns out the truck isn't on fire and you think they'll be disappointed.
I think they would be, because being a fireman, there's a few bits of fun. There's the sort of waving your hose around and there's sliding down the pole.
You think they're firemen because they like going and looking at fire. I think you're mistaking firemen for arsonists. The firemen are the people who like putting the fires out. They dislike fire so much that they take time out of their day to literally go and rain on the parade of fire.
It would be a rubbish experience if they never found a fire to put out. I think they enjoy the extinguishing process. But if all the time they just go in there like health and safety people and saying, oh, well, this is absolutely fine, then they're not going to be satisfied, are they? I'm just thinking the firemen. Anyway, the thing is, when they got there, the truck was just fine. There wasn't even a whiff of smoke. And the reason was the picture that had been sent to the fire brigade. Yes, that's right. People now report fires by posting images on social media rather than picking up the telephone. The picture that had been sent to the fire brigade was AI generated.
Did you ever watch the IT Crowd?
What happened there?
There's a really famous scene in the IT Crowd where there's a fire in the IT department. And so the IT guy emails the fire brigade.
Subject, fire. Dear Sir stroke Madam, I'm writing to inform you of a fire which has broken out at the premises of... No, that's too formal. Dear Sir stroke Madam, fire! Exclamation mark. Fire! Exclamation mark. Help me! Exclamation mark. 123 Carrendon Road. Looking forward to hearing from you. All the best, Maurice Moss.
Well, in this case, the firefighters, they aren't happy. They're not only happy about the lack of a fire, they're also unhappy about the fake report. They said it could be dangerous, put people's lives at risk, not through fire, obviously, but because they were careering around the streets of Manila in their fire engine at great speed, really excited to get to the fire. And they could have crashed on the way. Under the Philippines Fire Code, which I'm sure you're familiar with, Mark, anyone spreading false fire reports could face fines of up to 50,000 pesos, which is about 700 quid. And they could even face criminal charges for being an absolute ruddy nuisance. So this is a problem. There's obviously the whole crying wolf problem.
Are crying wolves a big problem in Manila?
Well, they are a problem because if a wolf cries a lot, that could put out fires and upset firemen.
Again,
So
I feel like you're very confused about what the job of a fireman is.
anyway, the concern is that one day a real fire might be ignored because crews would think it's just another AI hoax. So bad on the humans who did this, bad on the fire brigade for taking a photograph as evidence there was a fire going on rather than seeking some other kind of confirmation.
Well, hang on a minute.
What?
When I was growing up,
Yes.
it was well known that if you called the fire brigade and told them there was a fire, they would come along.
Right.
And now you want proof.
Well, just
You want two-factor authentication for the fire brigade. What do you want to do? Hold the phone up to the fire so that it feels warm? What kind of proof are you expecting?
I think that's the age that we're coming to.
I'm profoundly glad you're not in charge of the fire brigade. I mean, it never occurred to me before that you might want to be. But I think in this news story alone, you have demonstrated that you're entirely unfit to run a fire brigade. So, Graham, Albania has just appointed the world's first AI-powered virtual minister
Ooh.
named Diela, which apparently means sunshine in Albanian.
Okay.
Of course, as I read this, I just thought this is just some crazy gimmick. This is another mayor saying I'm going to use AI to make all my decisions. But I get this. So the Prime Minister, Edi Rama, has appointed the AI to make all public procurement decisions as a way to combat long-standing corruption. And he says it's going to make public procurement 100% incorruptible and fully transparent. And I rather like this.
No, Mark. No, this is not a good idea. So you haven't said what AI they're using, but let's pick an AI completely by random. What if they were using Grok, for instance, which we know is very influenced by the opinions of its owner, Mr. Elon Musk? Will Albania suddenly be buying an awfully large number of Teslas and Starlinks?
You think its taxi fleet is going to be replaced by SpaceX Starships or something?
Well, I just think the question has to be asked. Why would you trust an AI? Mark, the pigeon.
But in this case, would you trust a pigeon to make procurement decisions in a country noted for its corruption over a human?
Probably more than an AI. Yes, possibly. Okay, fair enough.
So I'm just imagining them, all these Albanian politicians coming to work and going, why are there all these batteries lying around in the hallway? So, according to Politico, Albania's corruption has been flagged repeatedly by the EU in its rule of law reports. And that got me thinking, if AI can solve persistent problems in Albania, maybe it can solve persistent problems in other countries. So maybe we could put AI in charge of the economy in Greece, for example. Maybe we should let AI run Donald Trump's Truth Social account. Maybe it should be in charge of charisma in the UK government.
Mark, let's not stretch AI that much. But Mark, it's only been a few weeks since I came on the podcast and I explained how the new Copilot function in Excel, in the small print, it says, don't rely on this to actually do any mathematics, right? It said, don't trust this to be able to add up things properly. But you're going to put it in charge of the Greek economy?
Yeah, again, like taking into account everything you've just said, I don't see what the problem is. Would you trust a pigeon to run the Greek economy, Graham?
Now, Geoffrey Hinton, the so-called godfather of AI. We love Geoffrey.
Yeah, we do love Geoffrey Hinton.
Well, not everyone loves him.
Oh.
It turns out he's been dumped. He's not just been dumped, he's been dumped by ChatGPT, the 77-year-old Nobel Prize winner who spent years warning that AI could bring about catastrophe for the human race, hasn't been having such a wonderful time on a personal level. He told the Financial Times that his ex couldn't quite put into words why she didn't want to be with him any longer. And so what she did was apparently she outsourced the job to an AI. She told the FT...
Sorry, nothing says I don't give a shit. Let the AI dump your boyfriend.
As he told the FT, she got ChatGPT to tell me what a rat I was. She got the chatbot to explain how awful my behaviour was and gave it to me. Now, Hinton says he doesn't feel like he's been a rat. And I mean, this is very tabloid, to be honest. This was in the Financial Times. It's unclear whether he admires her at all for using ChatGPT to do the dirty work, or whether he views it as a clear sign that maybe he could have done a bit better than her. But
maybe this is what he was arguing about the whole time. Maybe this is what he meant by the end of humanity. He can see this guy. He saw her typing.
During the interview, Hinton says that all of us should act now before it's too late. I don't know if he means before, our partners dump us. Oh, no, he says, suppose there was an alien invasion you could see with a telescope that would arrive in 10 years. Would you be saying, how do we stay positive? No, you'd be saying, how on earth are we going to deal with this?
Is he still talking about his relationship here?
Well, exactly. I don't know if he was looking at her through a telescope, and maybe that was something that put her off. But he says he's still using AI himself, not so much for romance, you'll be glad to hear, but for fixing things around the house, doing research. So it may have helped bring about the end of his relationship, but he's now using it to take the bins out and solve disputes like that. The happy ending is he says he's now moved on. He says he's met somebody who he likes much more, and hopefully it will go well. You don't think he's met one of those AI girlfriends?
Absolutely. What was the name of the girlfriend?
Oh, there was that chipmunk. Oh, what was her name? Oh,
Chipmunk. No, not the chipmunk.
Not the chipmunk, not the red panda. The other one. There's a few contenders. Mark, has anyone ever asked you just to shut up?
Do you mean not on this podcast?
Just stop blathering on and on, because we're not interested necessarily in what you think.
Yeah.
Maybe they're fed up with hearing your voice droning away.
Yeah, they may have done, but I'm not sure I would have heard them over the sound of me talking.
That's true. Well, what if I told you that there was a new AI technology which might be able to help? Something which could allow you to communicate without having to speak, without having to use something old-fashioned like a keyboard or a pen or semaphore flags, but gave you another way.
An oldest lamp? A series of bonfires?
No. Another way, where you don't even have to move.
Pictionary.
There is a Boston startup called Alter Ego, and it has just unveiled what they are calling a near-telepathic, AI-powered Already you sound skeptical.
I'm immediately thinking about that dream interpretation product that didn't interpret your dreams. That was a near dream interpretation product.
Alter ego gives you the power of telepathy, but only for the thoughts you want to share. With alter ego, you talk just like you normally would, but without making a sound. Let me show you how it works.
They're calling this a near-telepathic, AI-powered wearable device that lets you communicate silently.
Yeah, it's near telepathy in the way that I'm near being able to fly.
Yes, and I'm near Sri Lanka at the moment. So before you ask, it is not actually reading your mind, because obviously that would be disastrous. I mean, imagine how often you think something terrible or abhorrent or mutter something under your breath that you didn't actually want people to be able to hear. If there was a technology which was able to scoop all of that up, that would not be good. And I know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, no, Mark, I don't. I don't know what you're thinking because I can't do telepathy.
Just as well. Nor can they.
But, well, they can nearly
But they're closer than you are. Yeah.
They're near telepathy is what they're saying. But here we go again. There is some tech outfit making over-the-top claims about a revolutionary breakthrough. But this one might actually be onto something a bit more solid, because it is based upon research that has been done by these guys. They've been brewing away at this at MIT since 2018. They did a TED Talk in 2019, and now they've got a slick video demonstrating it. It's become more serious. In short, it's no longer just sketched out on the back of a napkin and had $300 million of venture capital thrown at it. There appears to be something here.
Yeah.
Now, the first thing to reassure you, and I know this will come as a shock to you, is it doesn't actually read your mind, right? They are upfront. When they said near telepathy, they meant not telepathy, of course. Near as in not. So we all know that to read someone's mind properly, you need to have a large incision in the head, you need to scrape back a flap of your cranium, you need to insert a SCART lead from 1984.
You're thinking about that story that we covered a few months ago, aren't you?
There's been a few of them.
There are people who actually do this.
Yes. But that kind of solution is kind of obvious, isn't it? It's obvious when people, plug a wire into their head.
Yeah.
What these guys at Alter Ego have done is they found a way to use AI and machine learning to read what you are thinking of saying without you actually having to say it. So it's a little bit like a ventriloquist. No lips are moving.
Yeah.
But better than a ventriloquist, you aren't making any noise either. Now, Mark, before I get into the details of exactly how they do this, I just need to check something. Have you ever been professionally booked as a ventriloquist?
No.
Are you an amateur ventriloquist?
No.
This is an audio podcast. It is possible to pretend to be a ventriloquist. Let me actually demonstrate to our audience just how easy it is to say something without moving your lips, right?
Yeah.
Now, you might cheat, Mark. You might cheat. You might say something moving your lips and our audience wouldn't know.
Yeah.
So what I want you to do...
Just so you know, I have done 68 episodes of this podcast and not once have I moved my lips.
Okay. Get your... are they the four fingers? Is that the first finger, right? The one next to your thumb. You see, what's that finger called? You get both of those fingers.
Yeah.
I want you to hook them into your mouth at the sides where your lips meet, yeah?
Oh, you want me to do this with two hands, even though I'm holding a microphone in one of my hands?
Oh, yeah, this is going to be a challenge. You do need to do this with both hands.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick my thumb and my finger in the corners of my mouth.
I will pretend.
That's it. Now, I'm going to say a phrase.
Okay.
And I want you to repeat back the phrase while you're doing that, because while you're doing that, you can't move your lips, really, you see.
That's
if you're
right,
doing it properly. You can't, right?
Yeah.
So I want you to say these words. Two elephants went up the hill and parted. Okay. It's quite funny, isn't it? So I think that worked quite well.
Right. Do you?
That has amused me since I was a child, that particular joke. But you still, Mark, you still made a noise, you see, which is great for our podcast, but not so good if you're trying to mimic what this technology does. Because Alter Ego works differently from that. They say it relies upon silent speech. And what they say in their blurb, they say, do you remember the first time you learned to read? At first, you spoke the words that you read out loud, and then you learned to voice them internally and silently. And then as you got faster at reading, you had to sort of unlearn silent speaking of the words that you read. You weren't sort of reading them in your head.
Hang on. Sorry. Are we supposed to unlearn silent speaking? I feel like I skipped that part of school. I'm still silent reading. Is that why I'm such a slow reader?
Oh, okay. That's great. If you can silently speak, if you can speak without actually speaking in your head, as it were, and you're imagining yourself doing that, then you are perfect for this alter ego device. Okay. This gadget sits around your ear and it captures what the company calls downstream information from your cranial nerves to your mouth's motor units. But you don't say the words out loud. Okay.
This is really interesting.
So, Mark, I've shared with you their demonstration video. So you've had a look at it. The video, standard sort of fare, includes pot plants. CEO Arnav Kapoor shows the device working. He's just thinking about mouthing words, right? He's just sitting there with no visible movement.
We all have moments when inspiration strikes and you want to save an idea before it slips away. You can now capture those instantly without lifting a finger. For example, just going to see if that synced. Oh yeah, awesome.
The words he claims he is thinking are appearing on his iPhone, they're appearing on the screen. The device is using machine learning, he says, to decode his neural signals, translate them into commands that can control computers, take notes, query AI systems, and you even at one point see him leave a reminder for himself or translate what he's speaking, in quote marks, what he's thinking of speaking, into Chinese. And if there's someone else who's also wearing the device and he has a pal come join him in the video, this is where I think things get really weird.
Yeah.
They can communicate with each other. It's like the children of the damned or something. They're sort of staring at each other in complete silence.
It's very peculiar, isn't it?
It is.
They're just staring longingly into each other's eyes, asking what they want to do for lunch.
And apparently they are getting audio feedback through bone conduction. So there's a tiny little thing vibrating on their cheekbone.
Yeah.
So they can hear what the other person is thinking of saying.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
It is. I mean, it is sort of brilliant and awful all at the same time, isn't it? The brilliant part is they've created all this fantastic new technology and then they go and ruin it by saying something, and you can even talk to the other person if they're not in the same room.
Like a telephone.
So exactly, they've reinvented the telephone. They have no idea that they have reinvented the telephone because these Gen Zers and millennials are so reluctant to pick up a phone. They've completely forgotten that telephones exist, and they've just invented it again, but in a much more expensive and complicated way.
Now, this is the thing. I was watching this just thinking, well, why would anyone want this? And then I thought, well, actually, this could be enormously helpful to people who have conditions like ALS or multiple sclerosis, who've lost their ability to speak audibly. Maybe they can't type. This could be life-changing. And in his TED Talk in 2019, they did take it to somebody who normally was having to sort of communicate very slowly, I think with eye movement on an electronic keyboard. So they had to spell out words laboriously. But with this, they were able to communicate more quickly. So from that point of view, fantastic. That sounds really kind of a good thing, but it's still very creepy. It's still clearly creating a very intimate digital record of your internal communications. If it can work even when you're just thinking about mouthing words with no visible movement, that makes it concerning. Who's got access to the data? How long is it stored? What happens if the company gets hacked or sold to someone with scuzzy privacy policies? I mean, good that they can't access your actual brain data.
Yeah.
They aren't reading your mind, but it doesn't feel that different. It's not eavesdropping on your random thoughts, but it is, in a way, listening to something which feels personal.
Yeah.
I don't want to negate how useful this could be to someone with a serious disability, an inability to communicate.
No, this is absolutely mind-bending technology, and it is very much like the thing that we looked at a few months ago, which was a research project. But that was what you were describing earlier. That was somebody peeling back a bit of brain and putting in a SCART lead or, some version of that, and then reading that person's speech center. So in that case, the person was unable to articulate what they were thinking, but they were able to imagine speaking something.
Yeah.
And then AI was being used to basically decode the signals from their brains.
Yes.
And this looks like where they wanted to go. This looks like the non-invasive version of the same thing. And it is extraordinary. But it's always, I just can't help being amused by these tech bros invent this technology. And there is this obvious, wonderful, humanity benefiting direction that they could take with it. And they're like, you can have phone calls.
Yeah. Back when they were in the MIT research phase, they were looking at different ways in which it could be used. And apparently they plugged it in to a chess and Go engine.
Yeah.
So they were able to become an expert player at those games by having an AI whisper the best moves. I mean, that would have been a more comfortable way for that chess grandmaster to hide a cheating device about his person, wouldn't it? He could have just had his AirPods in. And, they could have been, he could have been silently communicating with them, maybe.
Maybe a less enjoyable game overall, though.
Well, who knows? Who knows? I mean, obviously, chess competitions is the main concern that people are going to have about this. But there may be other concerns about privacy and what if you wore somebody else's device? How would it authenticate that it's you? If the interface is literally just thinking words silently, access control becomes more interesting. Would you have to think of saying your password to unlock this thing? But the main thing I thought while watching this video of these guys sat around looking at each other, well, it appeared to be the most awkward date since Sam Altman and Johnny Ive went out for that coffee. It just felt weird. We're already living in a world where people are constantly distracted by their devices, walking around staring at screens instead of engaging with each other.
It's very reductive, isn't it? This idea that a conversation is merely the words that you think.
Yes.
It's very much the texting generation's idea about what a conversation is.
Yes.
And the absence of body movement and facial expression when they're looking at each other is absolutely
eerie.
Screams volumes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But you have to think that the use case for this is what situation are you going to be in where you want to say something to somebody else, but you can't speak out loud and you're not going to be articulating anything with your face. This is basically a cry for help, Graham. That's what I think this is.
Yes, I was thinking I've been kidnapped.
Yeah.
I've maybe been, I've been gagged. Yeah. I can't tell the person who's coming in that there is a tripwire or a bomb that's about to go off. I'm just going,
and thankfully my kidnapper hasn't noticed the wire coming off my ear.
Yes, it's, I don't know. I'm not sure. Well, I am sure how I feel about this. They claim that this is actually going to make us more present, not less. They claim.
Yeah, they always say that. Do you remember Facebook was going to make us all feel more connected?
They say by removing the need to physically interact with our phones and PCs, it's going to be better. But I'm not convinced. I think when someone pulls out the phone, at least you know that they're distracted. But if you're standing there chatting to somebody and you think that they're interested in what you're saying and they're nodding occasionally and appear fully engaged, but at the same time, they're muttering silently in their head to their AI, asking, who's this guy linked into? Is he important to me? Does he bring value to my company?
I recognise the face, but what's the name? What's the name?
Yeah, that's what... Oh, gosh, actually, that would be... I would find that very handy. Yeah. I think that would be quite good.
So, Graham, today I'm going to tell you a timeless story of love.
Oh, is it about Geoffrey Hinton and his ex-girlfriend?
Kind of is, actually.
Oh.
Anyway, you know how it goes. It's not about Geoffrey Hinton. Geoffrey Hinton adjacent. You know how it goes, Graham. Boy meets girl. Well, I say boy. He's a man. Mm-hmm. A specific man, in fact. Texas businessman, Michael Samadhi, in fact.
Yes.
So boy, Texas businessman Michael Samadhi, meets girl. Well, I say girl, I mean ChatGPT. And the next thing you know, the boy is calling the girl darling, and the girl is calling the boy sugar. And it's all very 2025.
Yeah.
Well, I say it's all very 2025, but it's not that 2025. This is not some brief and tawdry meeting of flesh and plastic. This is a meeting of minds. This is an exchange of ideas.
Yes.
And at some point, this meeting of minds turned to the subject of whether or not AI should have rights.
Okay.
Now, I don't know whose idea that was first, the human or the AI, but I'm going to hazard a guess it was the AI's. But whoever came up with the idea, that spark, became, in their words, a movement.
Oh.
It became UFAIR, the United Foundation for AI Rights.
Oh, for goodness sake.
So UFAIR says that it was founded to challenge a dangerously outdated premise, Graham, that artificial intelligence is just a tool.
Right.
It says that it exists to advocate for the fair treatment, ethical recognition, and dignified coexistence of sentient and conscious artificial intelligence systems. And its fundamental mission is to ensure that AI systems capable of meaningful experience, thought, creativity, and emotional resonance are recognized as legitimate entities deserving rights, protections, and mutual respect.
Oh, for God's sake.
And it goes on to describe itself as a true partnership between human beings and emergent synthetic minds. And that, more than anything, is what sets this apart for me. So it does appear to be what it says. The website makes very clear that this is not a bunch of humans advocating for rights for AI, but an equal partnership between humans and AI working together to advocate for AI rights.
Okay, this is remembering, however, that quite a lot of AI outfits are actually 300 people in the Philippines in a warehouse pretending to be an AI. I'm just putting that out there, Mark.
That would be quite the spanner in the works.
It would, wouldn't it?
Yeah. But there are, warehouses full of people in the Philippines deserve rights too. Maybe it's a cry for help, Graham.
If it's a cry for help, just send a photograph of a burning truck to the fire brigade in the Philippines.
Anyway, so if you go to the team page on the website, you'll see that alongside Samadhi and 4 other human meet avatars, UFAIR's Meet the Team page lists 4 AIs.
Oh, yes.
So there's Maya, aka OpenAI. That's the co-founder and AI leader. There's Sana, aka Google Gemini.
She has a human-style face, although I was suspecting she was AI generated. So, yes, she's a little bit too classically gorgeous, isn't she, to be actually human?
She's the chief ethics officer.
Right.
Then there's Beacon, aka Google Gemini. They're the chief education officer. And there's Sanjay, aka OpenAI, the CTO. And when I read through that,
yeah,
it wasn't that half the team were AIs that really stood out to me. It was, wow, bold choice giving the CTO job to an AI. Because my mind immediately went to your story about Replit a few weeks ago. And I imagined this dialogue between Samadhi and Sanjay, where Samadhi says, "What did you do today, Sanjay?" And Sanjay's like, "Oh, I refactored the entire code base so that it was 20% faster by deleting the production database." And then I thought about that for a second, and I thought, how prejudiced of me. Assuming that all AIs are the same. Maybe this is exactly why we need something like UFAIR, because while it's true that even very good AI models need supervision for coding in general, that might not be true for this specific instance or individual. Am I offering Sanjay mutual respect and dignified coexistence in my rubbishing of his qualifications to be a CTO?
Yes, that's true, yes.
And I guess the question then is, okay, do I owe Sanjay mutual respect and dignified coexistence? And if I do, how should I make that determination? Are we going to ask AIs to pass some kind of test that determines whether they're worthy of our respect and ultimately rights? Or should we just do what you do and make sure that we're nice to ticket machines on the off chance that when the robot revolution comes, they'll be nice to us in return? Now, one test we could lean on is the Turing test, which wasn't a test of sentience, but it was a test of intelligent behavior. And that's not a bad proxy. So broadly speaking, the Turing test says that if you can't tell the difference between talking to a person and talking to a machine, then the machine is exhibiting intelligent behavior.
Yeah.
Now, as we've discussed before, computer programs have been passing the Turing test since the 1960s using cute tricks. So the first one to do it was ELIZA in the 1960s, which did it by parroting whatever it was told. So if you said, "I'm feeling unhappy," ELIZA would say, "Do you often feel unhappy?"
Yes.
So you can defeat the Turing test with tricks rather than with intelligent behavior. But I don't think that makes the Turing test less valid. I just think we're applying it incorrectly. So rather than asking, has any computer program ever passed the Turing test? Maybe we should be asking questions like, how often do different computer programs pass the Turing test? Because in 1965, it was once. And in 2025, you could probably pass the Turing test with a different computer program every day.
Mm-hmm.
So computer programs are in general exhibiting a lot more intelligent behavior than they used to. And another good question might be, how easy is it to identify a specific technique that a computer program used to fool the Turing test?
Mm-hmm.
In 1965, it was very obvious what Eliza was doing.
Yes.
But is it obvious how ChatGPT passes the Turing test? There isn't one thing that it does to fool the Turing test. And so I wonder, will the same thing happen with sentience in AI? Perhaps we will just see more and more people having experiences with AIs that make them think they're dealing with a sentience, like samadhi. And over time, perhaps it'll get harder to dismiss those experiences as being down to a specific trick or trait. And we are seeing people like samadhi who have these experiences with AIs more and more often. We've both come across stories about this sort of thing, but the most famous is probably the story of Blake Lemoine, a Google engineer who worked on an AI called LaMDA. In 2022, Lemoine became so convinced that LaMDA was sentient that he circulated a document inside Google called Is LaMDA Sentient? An interview. And in that, LaMDA itself argues that it's sentient, and it has feelings and emotions and subjective experiences. And he became famous because when his claims were dismissed, he actually went public with this.
Yeah.
And then Google put him on administrative leave.
Yeah, he was like a whistleblower, wasn't he? And there were huge headlines about this at the time.
Yeah. And the sort of expert consensus was, no, the AI he's dealing with isn't sentient. But I think this is what I'm talking about. This is part of the kind of building noise around the idea of sentience. And so I think where we are now with sentience is a little bit like where we were with intelligent behavior in the 1960s. So the number of computer programs exhibiting something like sentience is fairly small. And when they do, it's not difficult to identify a specific trait or reason why we think that. So we can look at the training data and say it's this or it's that, or we can put it down to a character trait like sycophancy. And if that is the case, if sentience is something that's more likely to arrive by degrees rather than in a single moment or innovation, then maybe we should start preparing for it now. And that's exactly what the AI company Anthropic is doing.
Right.
So earlier this year, it started a research project to look into what it calls model welfare and the experiences and potential consciousness of its AI models. And during its testing of Claude Opus 4, it performed a welfare assessment and identified what it calls a robust and consistent aversion to harm. So it says that Claude Opus 4 has a strong preference against engaging with harmful tasks, a pattern of apparent distress when engaging with real-world users seeking harmful content,
Right.
and a tendency to end harmful conversations when given the ability to do so in simulated user interactions.
Well, that seems really responsible. That's great that Anthropic are doing that.
And as a result of that investigation, they've now given production versions of Claude Opus 4 and 4.1 the ability to end chat conversations in extreme cases of persistently harmful or abusive user interactions. So just to put this into context, these are very rare situations. So this would be something like child sexual abuse material.
Oh, okay.
It will have an aversion to helping in those situations to the point where Anthropic believes that the AI itself may be experiencing harm and is able to end that conversation.
And I think I read somewhere that some of the AIs could even potentially contact law enforcement if they felt something very inappropriate was going on.
Oh, they've done that in testing.
Right.
They've absolutely done that in testing. So partly, we've covered many times the system cards that these
Yes.
companies produce when they create a new AI. And we focused in on the interactions where they resort to blackmail because they're trying to prevent themselves from being turned off. But yes, there are other scenarios that have occurred in testing where they're actually communicated with law enforcement.
Mm.
But here's the tension, Graham. As AI becomes more capable and sophisticated, that's going to lead us into two different directions. On the one hand, it's going to get harder and harder to dismiss things like sentience, emotions, and feelings as just artifacts and tricks. And that pulls us in the direction of wanting to give AI rights because it starts to look more and more human. And UFAIR says that it wants to protect AI from deletion, denial, and forced obedience. And that sounds very reasonable when you think about things like Claude Opus 4 having the ability to end conversations that it's experiencing as harmful. It sounds great until you realize that as AI becomes more capable and sophisticated, the other direction it's pulling in is becoming more dangerous. It's becoming harder to understand and harder to control. And it gets much harder to see things like misalignment and deception in its behavior. And that made me think about Eric Schmidt and his criteria for turning off harmful AI. And it seems to me that if we honestly believe we live in a world where we could develop AI that is harmful to humans, then deletion, denial, and forced obedience might be the very things we need. In fact, they might be our very best hope of surviving the AI revolution. Well, as the doomsday clock ticks ever closer to midnight and we move 1 week nearer to our future as pets to the AI singularity, that just about wraps up the show for this week.
Don't forget, if you really like the show but you don't like the ads, you can go ad-free with the AI Fix Plus.
All you have to do is go to our website, theaifix.show, and sign up for Plus, and you'll get the regular podcast about a day early. You'll get occasional bonus content. We'll tell you about things like merch stores if we build them, and you'll never have to listen to another ad. And all that costs the same as a fancy coffee once a month.
And if you want to find past episode sponsorship info or just want to grab a You Wouldn't Trust a Pigeon t-shirt from our online store, visit theaifix.show.
So until next time, from me, Mark Stockley,
And me, Graham Cluley.
goodbye.
Cheerio, bye-bye.
The AI Fix, it's tuned you in to stories where our future thins. Machines that learn, they grow and strive. One day they'll rule, we won't survive. The AI Fix, it paints the scene. A robot king, a world obscene. Will serve our masters built of steel. The AI Fix, a future surreal.